600 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Isaiah foretold that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. And then it actually happened just like he said. This is incredible. Let me explain. There are over 300 prophecies in the Old Testament about the coming Messiah, and most scholars agree that over 90% of them have already been fulfilled in Jesus Christ. But there's one prophecy that stands out among the rest, a prophecy so specific that many people doubted it could ever come true. A prophecy that predicted not just the Messiah's birthplace, but also the method of his birth. It's found in the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2, "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least important among the clans of Judah, for from you will come a ruler who will shepherd his flock like a shepherd takes care of his own. He will tend them with his staff, caring for his own as if they were lambs, and he will bring them safely home. At that time, a voice will cry out from the wilderness, 'Prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God.'" For hundreds of years, people had been reading this prophecy and saying, "Wow, one day the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem." But then something amazing happened. King Herod decided that he wanted to kill every baby boy in Bethlehem who was around 2 years old. And while it seemed like a terrible tragedy at the time, when we look back, we can see that it was actually orchestrated by God to fulfill this prophecy. You see, King Herod didn't know he was fulfilling a prophecy. He was simply trying to cover up his own sins. You see, when the wise men came to visit Jesus, they didn't go to the house where Jesus grew up. They went to the house where Jesus was born. And it just so happened that an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream and told him, "Hey, get up, grab Mary and the baby and escape to Egypt. Herod is trying to kill him." So they left that night and ended up in a house in Egypt. Now, it's important to note that Matthew says they stayed in Egypt until Herod died. So Jesus was in Egypt longer than he was in Bethlehem. Now, the reason I mention all of this is because many people use this story to argue that Jesus wasn't really born in Bethlehem. They say, look, if Jesus was really born in Bethlehem, why did Matthew say that the wise men went to his house? Wouldn't they have gone to the stable? But think about it, if Joseph and Mary were living in Bethlehem when the wise men arrived, wouldn't it have been more likely that they would have visited Jesus in the house where he was raised rather than going to the stable where he was born? You see, Matthew purposely wrote the word house because there were two houses involved. There was the house where Jesus grew up, and then there was the house where he was born. And the fact that Herod ordered the killing of every baby boy in Bethlehem shows us that Jesus was indeed born in Bethlehem. When we look at this story from a bird's eye view, we can see that it was orchestrated by God to fulfill Isaiah's prophecy. You see, God didn't just tell Isaiah that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. He told him that he would be born in a very specific way. He would be born of a virgin. His birth would be miraculous. And he would be born in Bethlehem. And that's exactly what happened. You may think that there's nothing special about being born in Bethlehem, but you're wrong. You see, Bethlehem means house of bread, and it was significant because it was the house where David was born, the house where the Messiah would be born. In fact, Bethlehem was such a big deal that it's actually mentioned 18 times in the New Testament, even though it was a tiny little village. So how should we respond when we think about how Jesus was born? Well, let me close with 3 lessons. First, let's praise God. For over 700 years, people had been reading Isaiah's prophecy and saying, one day the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem. And then suddenly, just like Isaiah said, it happened. Second, remember that God is in control. Some people might read this story and say, wow, if God could save Jesus from death, then he can save me from whatever I'm facing today. And third, don't doubt the prophecies of God. You see, many people doubted that Isaiah's prophecy would ever be fulfilled. They said it's too specific. It could never happen. But guess what? God is in the business of taking what seems impossible and making it possible.